Hello, everybody. Kyle here. I'm going to do a review for the new Scream film, Scream 6, that just released in cinemas last night. I saw it, and I have to say, it is, I think, my favorite Scream film. I was really blown away at how good this film was. Um, my relationship with the Scream franchise is interesting because when I was little, I don't even remember how old, probably when I was like 8, which is probably too young of an age. I saw the first Scream, but I think I didn't see it in its entirety. I know for sure I watched the ending of the movie, so I knew about the twist of there being two killers ever since I was a kid, but I never went on to watch the other films. And just last year, when Scream 5 came out, I decided to watch them. And the way I pretty much rank them is I think Scream 1 and Scream 2 are pretty much on par with each other. I think Scream 1, of course, is the original, so it's classic. But I do think Scream 2 is heavily underrated, and there's a lot of sequences in the film, one in particular where Gale is trying to escape from Ghostface in a was it the library? I think it was no, it was like the backstage of the theater. That's actually a pretty, I would say, scary and exciting sequence that Wes Craven came up with. I think Scream 3 is actually, of course, it's a weak film. Like, it's not as good as the other two, but I don't really hate it. I think that the issue with Scream 3 is there's a number of things I think in the original drafts of the film that they ended up unfortunately not putting into the film, like with Parker Posey's character. And I think, well, no, it wasn't Parker Posey's. It was um oh, I forgot her name. Emily. I want to say Emily Morse. That that film has what I remember I was telling a number of friends of mine, like a Rise of Skywalker effect, where it's like, oh, this was planned from the beginning when it really wasn't. But then we get to Scream 4, where Scream 4 is my least favorite of the franchise, and I think it's actually a bad film. Some of it, you know, the stuff at the end with Emma Roberts crashing through glass and all that, that's fun, but I think just it doesn't work for me. I did not care for Scream 4. Scream 5 came out last year, and I thought that movie was much better than Scream 4. I think it was even better than Scream 3. But for me, I found the killers to be a little bit anticlimactic. They weren't as, I think, not just surprising, but I wanted a little more from them. And I thought like the story for Scream 5, it's good, but it's not as great as the other films, specifically Scream 1 and 2. Then we get to Scream 6, and I was going into this with lowered expectations because I was unhappy with what happened with Neve Campbell, where, according to her, they didn't pay her enough, which is never something that you like to hear, especially an actor in this industry like Neve Campbell, who's been working for this long and who I think earns the right to be paid, um, whatever she wants, because I mean honestly she is the star of this franchise. She's like the head of the franchise. Every movie she is in as the lead basically, except for Scream 5. Now, with that being said, she wasn't in this film and I didn't know how it would work out. And also, they make like this film, the development of this film was really fast. One of the, I think, the fastest um production that they've ever put together, because the first film came out in January of last year, and then right when it came out they put it into production for a sequel to Scream 5. And I gotta say, this film, I honestly think this is the best Scream yet. Not only is it better than Scream 5, but I think this is the most emotional Scream. There are a lot of things in here, one of them being the relationship between Melissa Barrera's Sam and Jenna Ortega's Tara, which I think was a really great emotional hook to this storyline. The idea of two sisters, which is also a rarity in horror. Um, and in terms of just two like badass, empowered women in Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera, they're just so good in this movie. I really love what they do with Kirby from Scream 4. It makes me even appreciate the film more knowing that this character has some development from Scream 4. And I like the idea that these are all people that experience trauma together. In a way, it's kind of like what I think Jurassic World Dominion wanted to do, where it's like, let's get two generations and put them together, and yet it just feels like cheap fan service, where here there's a point to be made. There's a point to have these core four characters sticking together after a real traumatic event, and then having Kirby, who also experienced a similar event, and Gale working together. I just think that really, really worked. I thought the chemistry worked with all the characters. I thought the film was funny. I also thought the sequences were really well directed. There's a sequence on a ladder that is bone chilling and just a top notch horror sequence that when it ends, my theater just gasped. There's also a scene in a convenience store. There's a scene in the latter sequence is connected to a Rear Window-esque moment that I really loved. And then you get into the subway sequence that's teased in the trailers. And I think this is the standout sequence of the movie, because you really don't know in this sequence who is Ghostface, because everyone is wearing a Halloween costume. And subways are like this claustrophobic feeling anyway, so you really feel scared. I feel like the next Scream should take place in an escape room. I think that would be really funny. But here it works, like everything works about this movie. The opening of the film has this great sequence that then has like a bit of a twist to it, where I was like, "Oh, really? We're going there." There's also, I will say, a lot more violence to this film that worked for me. Like, I don't think that, when it comes to the franchise, it has been gory and everything, but here it doesn't feel like it is gory for the sake of being gory. There is a purpose to it. There's also connections and references to the other films in the franchise, which don't feel like fan service. It truly feels like this is a world that is connected to the other movies. And I love it, because I love when franchises respect what has come before. There's become a trend in Hollywood. I'm looking at you, Halloween franchise, where it's like, let's forget the other Halloween movies happened and let's restart. And I just sometimes feel like it is disrespectful to the filmmakers that have come before. And the fact that Scream is a franchise that continues on with what they've started, kind of like the Jurassic Park franchise. But the difference here is I love this movie. Jurassic World Dominion, you can find my review, is a movie that I did not like. And I love that, Scream 4, a movie that I think is not good, is actually improved, because now there's this film, Scream 6, that builds upon some of the characters and stories from that film. And films like Scream 3 and Scream 2. And yet, it all works in this cohesive storyline that I think has emotion to it, has some great comedy to it, acting, character. It has everything really, and I'm really looking forward to see how it does. I hope that they make as many more Screams as they can with this team and cast. My prediction is that this franchise is going to become Jenna Ortega's franchise. I love Melissa Barrera, but I feel like Jenna Ortega is really becoming like the Hollywood's new it girl at the moment. So I have a feeling that she's going to take the reins of this franchise. But if it's her and Melissa, I'm still in for it because their sister relationship is the heart of this new series of films. So I'm looking forward to what's next. I'm looking forward to Scream 7. I think that this is something that I did not know if they would do well, given that they didn't have David Arquette back as Dewey, didn't have Nev Campbell back as Sidney. Yet they show like the franchise can continue, which is actually something when I saw Creed 3 last week, even though I did like that film, it did feel like it didn't want to really talk about Rocky, and that felt a little weird to me when it is, especially Rocky being a character in the first two Creed movies. But here they mentioned Sidney, they mentioned the other characters, and it really does feel like, they are connected and possibly Sidney might return. So I loved it. And I am looking forward to see what everyone else thinks. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of Scream 6. And have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye.